So if you have been to an icon before, you will know that this one is a little bit different than the ones we've done in the past. And I'm really excited for this new process. So we are honored to have Casting for Recovery, who is a solution grant recipient for Livestrong this year, joining us. And this session all about them and their program. So I'm going to hand this program over in just a couple seconds, and I want to introduce our keynote speaker. If you registered before Monday or before yesterday, today's Wednesday, if you registered, you should have gotten a document that Susan put together for us to kind of give you a history on Casting for Recovery and what we're going to be talking about today. So before I take up any more time, I want to go ahead and introduce Susan Getz. She is the program director of Casting for Recovery. She has spent 20 years as a professional photographer, and she's got a real passion for medical storytelling. So she was on assignment for a medical journal, and she happened to be photographing Casting for Recovery and a retreat that they were having. She was totally inspired, started volunteering in 1999, and she joined staff in 2010. Today, she is the National Program Director, and Susan oversees strategy for outreach to underserved populations, including women of color. Susan, so excited to have you here today and to have ICON be a solution for Casting for Recovery. The gallery is all yours.
Thanks so much, Suzanne. And thanks to everybody for being here today and spending time on this. I appreciate Livestrong providing this opportunity, and Diane and Brenda serving as our moderators. Thank you, guys. And it's nice to see some familiar faces that I haven't seen in a while out there, as well as some new ones. I thought I would start with a little background on Casting for Recovery and give you some context that might help in your breakout discussions. So Casting for Recovery, we often refer to it as CFR. We're a national nonprofit that started 25 years ago. And our mission is to provide healing outdoor retreats for women with breast cancer. And these retreats combine medical education, resources with peer support, and we also teach women the sport of fly fishing, which I know on the outset sounds like those things probably shouldn't go together, but they actually do in a pretty wonderful way. The idea of putting those elements together began with a group of women that included a breast reconstructive surgeon who's a woman of color, as well as a fly angler. And the goals that these women had in the early days were to provide opportunities for women to try something new, which was fly fishing. And that's something that could be helpful for arm and shoulder mobility if they had surgery, a mastectomy, or radiation as part of their breast cancer treatment. The other part of the retreats was to provide time away out of the clinical setting, away from life, family, work, caregiving, to focus on their own physical, mental, and emotional well-being. Women don't take enough time to take care of themselves because we spend a lot of time taking care of other people. And the other part of this was for women to connect with one another and with nature. So today we serve over 700 women a year. Like I said, we've been around for 25 years. Our programs are open to women of all ages, races, ethnicities, sexual orientations, economic backgrounds, and any stage of breast cancer treatment and recovery. We've served women in their 20s, women in their 90s, women in active chemo treatment with no hair, women that have had recurrences, women that are 20 years out of their treatment and doing great. The only eligibility criteria that we have to attend one of our retreats is a diagnosis of breast cancer. And the other thing that has been part of our foundation since day one is that all of our retreats are provided at no cost. So we provide meals, lodging, supplies. We bring all the fly fishing equipment, and our local teams are made up exclusively of volunteers that include female fly anglers, medical professionals, so oncology, nurse navigators, oncology social workers, retreat leaders, hospitality, all of that, all women. And because our retreats are provided at no cost, this allows us to serve women who are disproportionately affected when it comes to accessing resources. Another thing we know after years of research and statistics is that 70% of the women who attend our retreats have never attended a support group. So this tells us that we are reaching a segment of the population that isn't drawn to traditional support resources. And I think that's important. However, although all of our retreats have always been open to women of all races, women of color are largely underrepresented. We have mostly served white middle-aged women. And we believe there's some reasons for this, which we're trying to address. One, we know that there's a lack of diverse representation in the fly fishing and outdoor recreation spaces. From research, we know that people of color are marginalized when it comes to participating in outdoor activities, and Black people represent the most dramatically underrepresented group. CFR has a lack of diversity in its national staff, as well as our nationwide body of volunteers. And since many of the women who come to our retreats return as volunteers, this becomes a cycle that's self-perpetuating. We have a lack of effective outreach to recruit women of color, and we don't understand the barriers to care or the access issues that are experienced by women of color. So what have we been doing? We've been working towards diversity, equity, and inclusion for the last couple of years. We have a number of initiatives, some of which include specialty retreats. We piloted one specifically for Black women in Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, where we know the need is high. And we've continued that program for a number of years now. We also launched a retreat for low-income women in Long Island and New York City. And for those specific specialty retreat programs, we were able to conduct targeted outreach with local health organizations that served women of color. It was time-consuming, but well worth it. We know that women of color need to see themselves in our program. And over the years, we worked really hard to showcase women of color on our website, our brand videos, our social media channels, and in our outreach and print materials that go to doctors' offices, clinics, wherever our outreach can be provided to women.
She's sitting there with duck lips the whole time.
We also developed partnerships with some outdoor organizations like Brown Folks Fishing to increase our recruitment of volunteers of color. So we know that women of color need to see themselves in our program, and we worked really hard to showcase the women of color who've attended our retreats on our website, our brand videos, our social media channels, and in our outreach and print materials. We've also developed partnerships with some outdoor organizations like Brown Folks Fishing to increase recruitment of people of color to serve as volunteers. And we also try to recruit women of color to fill our oncology, medical, and psychosocial roles on our retreat wellness teams. We signed the Angling for All pledge. I know some of this is probably sounds kind of funny because it's all fly fishing related, but we signed a pledge called the Angling for All pledge that was part of our partnership with Brown Folks Fishing. And what that did is we had to be approved. We committed to a curriculum to increase our DEI and our cultural competency at all levels of our organization, from our board down to our local volunteers. The problem is we're still not effective at reaching and serving more women of color at our retreats. We know these are underserved, marginalized populations. There's years of statistical research demonstrating the need for greater support and education. We know that the mortality rate of Black women remains 40% higher than that of white women with breast cancer. We know that Black women are more likely to be diagnosed at a later stage and with more aggressive types of breast cancer, such as triple negative. And we know that substandard care across all minority groups leads to higher mortality rates. So here's where we're at. We've prioritized our DEI work in our organizational strategic plan. We know our program works. We've been doing it for 25 years. We have a replicable program model, and we receive positive feedback from women of color who attend our retreats. With our current outreach as it stands right now, we're only able to serve one woman for every 3 who apply. We have 1,800 volunteers across the country. We're a very volunteer-driven organization. Those volunteers implement all aspects of our program and the retreats on the local level. We ask a lot of these volunteers, I'm not going to lie. And these volunteers are primarily white. So they don't understand how to reach more women of color, and they may not feel comfortable doing so. Our local programs that have Black leadership definitely attract more women of color to their retreats, and those women who come to the retreats become volunteers. Because our application numbers are high, it's difficult for us to ask our local volunteers to do more outreach, to turn away more women. So the first thing we need to do is we need to create outreach opportunities and provide guidance and training for these local volunteers so that they are more comfortable. We have 12 people on our national staff, and we have 4 in our program department. We know that local grassroots outreach is really effective, but we can't do that for 46 retreats nationwide, which is what we're hosting this year. Our national staff needs to spearhead this diversity outreach effort, and we need to seek out partnerships with organizations that have a broad national reach plus a local reach. We can commit staff time and travel to research and foster these partnerships, and then work to guide and train our local volunteers to connect with women of color in their communities where they live, work, and play. We have a lot of work to do on many levels in our organization. It's a complicated issue. I feel like the onion gets bigger every day. Each time I peel something back, it seems to grow even larger. And we know that this is going to take time, but that's why conversations like this are really important. I know that if we can attract more women of color to our program, it'll create a domino effect. Those women will in turn help recruit more applicants of color because they'll share their experience with other women in their community, and those women will then become volunteers in our local programs. We just need to get the momentum going. And I really look forward to your insights and ideas, and want to thank you so much for providing this opportunity for us. We were talking about that not everybody might be interested in fishing, that there could be other reasons to not want to participate in a CFR retreat, but we do have a strong nature base to our programming. If it wasn't fly fishing, what else would be of interest to women of color?
I have a suggestion. So I'm part of the local Master Naturalist program, and we do these amazing walks. So we call them nature walks. I'm trying to incorporate something more for the children, but I like a personal thing that I like to do is to plant ID. So if we can just go through this walk, ID maybe 5 plants, ID maybe 5 trees, maybe ID 5 bugs, like those types of things. And it's just nice to know you're going to go on a walk, and 6 weeks later, and you can say, you know what, that's a pecan tree, and that is a sensitive briar, those types of things. It's nice to be able to ID native, non-native things.
Hey, Susan, this is Greg Lee with the foundation here. A couple of different things that I'm very familiar with a group on the men's side of this equation called Real Recovery, REEL, Real Recovery. And so I might recommend just an outreach to them, and I'm happy to do that introduction if that will help, just because it may give some ideas that they're doing. I'm also, though, very familiar with another organization that does retreats, but in nature, but it's more around kind of like Kim talked about, going out and identifying plants that exist in nature, and then finding a way to then create, whether it's a potted plant or a box that can go on the back porch or go on the back deck or on the balcony or something, that serves as a constant reminder of the natural experience they had getting away in the fresh air and the flow of water and other things like that. And so there's something, at least for this group, very, very therapeutic about getting your hands dirty and a little bit of soil, and yet having that experience go back with you to wherever you may be. And the other side of what they experienced was it was a natural conversation starter for our friends and family and others who came over and saw what was going on. And it was another way to kind of start that dialogue and have that constant conversation between people about things that can be an awkward conversation topic.
Thank you. Yeah, that's helpful. And actually, we're very familiar with Real Recovery. Stan, who started that, used to work for CFR. And that's how Real Recovery actually started. So yeah, we work closely with them.
And another thought to piggyback on that would be, and we have done this with some of our, some ladies in their healing, and that is community gardens, just small gardens that they, and that was being out in nature, and hands got plenty dirty, but, and it was a way to get used to bugs crawling and being in the heat. And so I'm wondering if that might be something that we can think about, and it also helps get food insecurity in some of the communities.
Anna, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I work with First Ascents in partnerships and marketing. So, obviously kind of thinking about a lot of similar things. I think one point of caution I would just bring up in this part of the conversation is thinking of always asking yourself the why and bringing it back to your own mission. And I think the why needs to have the communities themselves at the center, and just diversifying for the sake of diversity and changing the programming that you all do for the sake of diversity is maybe, I would just encourage you to have a really strong why for why you're doing that, or else it'll feel inauthentic. And I think from a First Ascents perspective, what we try to do is, on the one hand, create flexible partnership and customized partnership opportunities to meet folks where they're at, and recognize that we can't have the same strategy for every community that we work with, while at the same time just referring individuals to other partners if what they want is being provided by someone else doing the work well, because the point isn't just to like hoard diversity, it's to create opportunity and communicate it and pass it along through trusted messengers and community members in a way that will create authentic connection, and not necessarily change the programming from First Ascent side, change the programming that we do in order to maybe fit a mold that we think will create diversity, because ultimately that's inauthentic to our mission.
Anna, thank you so much for that. That's really great insight. Marcia, you have your hand up too. Oh, you're still on mute.
I'm sorry. I'm Marcia Dixon. I'm into integration, nutritional health coaching, ministry, and also life coaching. And Brenda Cathy invited me on this call, and this is one of my missions that I wanted to set out to do, was to bring people to the forefront of this, because I've just finished my chemo 2 months ago. So navigating all of that. And one of the things that, and Brenda mentioned it too, one of the things that is really exciting is about with women of color, we're finally getting back into where we used to be, the herbs and things like that. So I believe if we even did the raised garden with the herbs so that they would know how to cook with them and bring that into the kitchen, actually send herbs home with them, that after we've done the education of what they are, planting them and how that works, and then actually send them that home with them with an actual recipe. Because if you're not sending an actual recipe, then it's just gonna get lost in the fog. The other thing is, it doesn't have to be pork or anything like that, but it just something that would teach us even more healthy living. Because one of the things that we fall into the trap of, people of color that are don't have the income will eat more fast food, will eat more things that are not that good for the body. So if we can switch the switch on to a healthier lifestyle, even in that cookout and education with that, I think that would be a huge thing that they could even take home also. So that we could take home. I just think that would be really important, because I've had to change, even though I ate kind of healthy, I've even had to change even more to even survive. So I just think that would be very, very important, and getting out there with people that trust them, that we trust.
Marcia, thank you so much. We've got about 15 minutes left. And so what I would love to do, I know our breakout room was great, tons of great ideas, feedback, thoughts. And so I thought maybe we could take just a minute, and I'm going to put Susan and Lisa on the spot here and see if they would be willing to kind of go to, give a 5 minute, just 5 minutes kind of recap of what happened in your room and some of the solutions and ideas that you heard, so you could share with the group. Does that sound okay? Awesome. So I'm gonna, Lisa, you're first.
Nope, no pressure.
Nope, none.
Our session was really great too. I really appreciate all the insight and input and how open everyone was and how thoughtful they were. And we were super lucky in that we had Jackie, who was a past participant for our program, also in our session, which is so helpful because she understands the community we're trying to reach, but she also understands the program. So I think her insights were really suitable. So we're challenged with how do we better reach women of color and let them know about the work that we're doing and hope that they'll attend a program and apply. And there were so many great ideas. I think and things that we know, right? Like the best way to get there is through women who they trust and know, in their own community. I mean, I think that message is loud and clear. Like, we really need to be able to have our own CFR advocates within the communities we're trying to reach, right? So we need to empower women to be able to speak. So there was some really great ideas that came about in that way. Like, for example, how do we make it easy for women to share our program with their communities, whether it's providing a stipend, a little bit of financial help for them to reach out to those communities and make presentations, whether it's having more resources readily available, talking to churches, directly to churches, working with other national nonprofits that are already doing work in these communities. So some partnership opportunities there on a local level and on a national level, which I think is really important. Talking to doctors of color in the medical community, how do we reach them? A lot of some of the women in our group had never heard of us, but they're spending time in doctors' offices. So why is our material not there as a resource? let's see. Am I forgetting? What am I? I'm sure I'm forgetting lots of things because there was so many things that came out of our session that would be important. But I think really that trusted messenger piece and collaborating, and also we had a really healthy discussion, I think, about being authentic. You know, that it's not just enough to show diversity on your website, you know, and if what you do also needs to be true to who you are, and, you know, actual photos of women actually experiencing our programs is the most effective. So lots and lots of really great kernels of knowledge for us, and we have so much work to do, and I'm really grateful for everyone for all their thoughts.
Great, Lise, thanks so much. All right, Susan, you're up.
So we had some crossover. I'm sure y'all did too, in the other breakout room, because they really do go hand in hand. Some really specific information came out of our breakout session in terms of what women of color might be worried about, and that Black women want to know that there's not going to be snakes, that and there's going to be bug spray, and that there's going to be a bathroom, and that there's going to be sunblock, and folks are going to be taking care of them in the outdoors. They, you know, that comfort is an issue. And I will say that we see that across the spectrum with all of the women that attend our retreats, but we could do a better job of showing them where they're going, what it's going to be like. And really, even one of the suggestions was to do just a short footage video. This is the venue. This is what your room is going to look like. This is the dining hall. You'll have a refrigerator if you need it for things. We're going to have this, this, and this. Women who don't know how to swim, there's a fear of water. And we've definitely seen that, letting them know what the fishing is going to be like. And also, we know that we are a small nonprofit that's filling a niche. We don't run support groups. We're not providing transportation or financial support in other ways. This is what we do. We've had discussions. Should we incorporate conventional fishing in addition to fly fishing? And we've always come back to the fact that there is something about fly fishing, whether it's a bucket list item, whether it's just something you've always wanted to try because it's beautiful. A lot of women say, God, it was so easy and it was meditative, and I lost track of time while I was fly fishing. I forgot about cancer. Meditative is what comes up the most. And I'll tell you, women make really good fly fishers because it's not a power sport. It's all about finesse. The rod and the line do all of the work. So there is something kind of magical about that, but it's not all about fishing. We have medical sessions and other activities, and we do incorporate walks and other nature activities into our retreat. I love Marcia's idea about herbs and cooking and all of that. We would have to create a whole new program, cooking for recovery, and herb education for recovery, which I wish we could do. But we do need to stay in our lane with what we know we can do well, but we need to do a better job of explaining what we do in a way that makes women feel more comfortable to apply. You know, they might say, I don't think that I want to fish. But if they understood more about what we do, and that they weren't going to be the only woman of color in the room, which leads to a really great idea, which was to host some pre-events. And maybe that pre-event involves a walk in nature or gardening or something near water. Even seeing what it's like to hold a fly rod and cast into just a casting pond and not even step in the water. These pre-events that get women comfortable with what we do and what our volunteers and staff are like is not a difficult lift, and something that we could do, and even having some sort of a reward or benefit for bringing a friend. So if you come back to another one of these and you bring a friend, you're name is entered for a raffle, or I don't know what it is, or you get a buff, I don't know, but something so that there is a positive correlation with participating that leads up to the retreat that might feel more outside of someone's comfort zone, but having a pre-event could help with that. And I love that idea. Lots of great ideas came out of this, and some of it is just straight up marketing, which of course is Lisa's wheelhouse. And those are not difficult things for us to do too. But the big takeaway that was also in the other breakout room is that we attend things based on who we hear them from. The success rate of us attending something or signing up completely depends on the person that shared it with us, and do we trust that person? And that comes back to community champions, using some of our women of color who are alums, who have been through the program, that understand barriers or fears or what it might take to get someone to one of our retreats. And then staying in our lane, knowing what we do and what we do well, and not changing our program, but expanding it in a way that all feel welcome. So, yeah.
Susan, thank you.
Thank you.
So I have to tell you, this is one of the most fun icons we've done in a while. I love all of them. But like I said, if you've been to one in the past, really excited to have you share your time and your ideas and your vision of what we can do to help Casting for Recovery and so many survivors of breast cancer to make their quality of life as high as it possibly can be. I cannot thank you enough for everything that you've done today, lending your time and your wisdom in a brand new way that we've never done before this way. So before we go, we've got two more things. One, administrative note. You're all going to get a survey right at the end of this. If you would take just 2 seconds and fill that out for us, that means a lot to us. I want to thank Genetech, who helped make this possible. So they're supporting us. So we want to say thank you to them. Thank you to Brenda. Thank you to Diane for moderating the rooms and being amazing, bringing all of these great ideas to life. We couldn't have done it without you. Thank you guys so much. Susan and Lise, thank you for your time and your vulnerability and your honesty. Thank you for that. But before we go, I definitely want to leave the end to Greg Lee. He is our CEO and president at Livestrong, has celebrated his 15-year mark here with us. So I will let Greg send us off for the rest of our Wednesday. Greg, gallery's yours.
Thank you very much, Suzanne. First of all, your time is the most valuable commodity that we all have. And I know how precious that is for each one of us. But I also know the value that we can bring when we work together to solve problems. And that was one of the funnest part about sitting in the background and listening to the dialogue and the exchange and the sharing of ideas. We're trying to solve a practical problem that exists every day for cancer patients and survivors. And how do we help that? And I think, here at the foundation, one of the things that we are really trying hard to do every day is better understand how we can help close those gaps to the practical everyday challenges that cancer patients and their caregivers face. And this was an excellent example of 40 people banding together to share ideas and exchange thoughts on how we can help our friends that are in need and how we can bring together ideas and share. It's not turf management that, oh, this is my idea and I don't want to help you. It's more about, okay, this is what I heard, or this is what I know, or this is what I saw somebody else do, and how can we all band together to help? I serve on several national boards, and one of my frustrations is that there's some 50,000 organizations that declare cancer as their specialty area. I just wish we could get those 50,000 organizations together to talk and solve problems together, rather than throwing up silos and kind of creating this turf that exists between us. But this was an example where, regardless of the organizations we're associated with, that didn't matter. We're here to try to solve some practical everyday problems. And we really appreciate that. That is what we are all about. And it was so helpful to have that free and open dialogue and exchange. And again, echoing Suzanne's comment, we really do appreciate your time because we know that's the most valuable commodity that you have. Our phones are always here. Our emails are always here. Our text messages work. If there's anything we can ever help you with, friends, family, foe, please don't hesitate to reach out. But thanks again for taking time to help us help someone close yet another gap in cancer care. I hope y'all have a great day. Make it a great week. And if there's anything else we can help with, certainly reach out to us. Thank y'all very much.